So if this is your first time watching one of my videos, it's probably because this might be the first one I actually share with the masses. I've been trying to build up a few videos before I send out the official, opening one. But hopefully this is it. I'm Sarah, and I love that you're watching this. First of all, thank you. But my whole point of this channel is to gleam some light, not the sunlight that is gleaming on my face at the moment, my amazing video footage here, but to gleam some light on life and perspective and all the different kinds of scenarios that can encompass that. So one of my favorite things to talk about obviously is perspective, and it's just looking through a different lens on any given situation or chaotic moment or amazing moment or any of those things, and to take a second pause and just kind of spin it to have a different perspective, whether it's putting yourself in somebody else's shoes or it's seeing something for what it really is underneath the surface, that sort of thing. So I just wanted to ask some questions to you guys. Like, do you ever wonder what the whole point is? Like, literally, like what's the point of being here? What's your purpose? What's the plan? Like, what is your calling, if you will? Those are real questions, and those are questions. Oh, nice lighting. It's a miracle. This is what you get when you film in the Jeep. And I did say Jeep, not car, because you'll notice in my first 3 videos I do this and I talk about being in a car even though I'm in a Jeep. It's very crazy. I don't know why that happens, but I remembered this time. I guess 4th time's a charm. But nonetheless, and I have ADD, so I'm all over the place, so bear with me. But if you ever asked yourself these questions about, like, what's the point? What's the purpose? What's the plan? And I can't imagine you living a breathing life as a human and not have that question. And for so long, I've had that question, and for so long, I didn't really have an answer. Not that I have an answer, because I'm pretty sure just when I think I've got it figured out, God's going to flip it around and say, ha ha ha, you think you've got it figured out, I'm going to show you a different thing. But so far, this is what I got. I'm going to tell you a story that may actually help you. Awesome lighting again in my eyes, but I dare not put my sunglasses on because why would I do that? That would be smart. Anyways, I am one of these people that can do so many things, and I'm good at so many things, but I'm not great at one thing. And as I say that, a few people are like, really? Like, Sarah, you can do all these things. I'm like, no, but that's like how I feel, right? I can literally do just about anything. Anything creative I can do. And if I can't, then I'll figure it out. I have one of those personality types that I'm determined to figure things out. I'm resourceful. I read a lot. I search a lot. I figure it out. And then I do it. And spend an obscene amount of time, not waste of time, but an obscene amount of time trying to make it be what I want it to be. So, with that being said, when you're creative, I just do it all. I always say yes, which is a bad thing. You shouldn't always say yes, but I'm learning that art of saying no at some point. Hopefully this YouTube channel will help me with that because I can focus on this. But so I had a client a few years ago that I was brought to her to do some painting and faux finishing in her house of her furniture, walls, whatever it was. Awesome lighting. There we go. Yay, shade. Probably should just stop the Jeep and go, but I'm actually on my way to a meeting because I'm the best multitasker ever. Anyway, squirrel. So I was at her house doing painting, and then one thing led to another, and I'm a talker, clearly. And we were talking about graphic design stuff, and that's what I do. So I help her with her brand and help her graphic design. So over the course of however long, a year, 2 years, we ended up developing a relationship, and we'd have an open conversation about different things, and I ended up helping her through some pretty personal stuff. And she said to me one day, she said, Have you ever thought about why you're really here? Because I don't think you're here for the graphics or the painting. Like, I feel like we were brought together for something entirely different. I feel like we were brought together for you to help me through this situation or this storm or whatever it was. And I was like, at first I was like, that's interesting. That's a new perspective. So I went home and thought about it. And I legit, that night, got out a piece of paper and I wrote down, I need to like speed up because I'm talking and I'm like driving like a grandma on the highway. But anyway, I wrote down all of my past clients and people I've worked with, whether it be graphic design or painting or art or photography or any of those things that I can do, building websites, all that stuff. I wrote down all my clients, and legit every client I've ever worked with. And if you're listening to this and you're one of my clients, I've helped you through something, whether it's personal or business, in a way of having a new perspective. Either that or I've, some kind of therapeutic type session. And I'm not a therapist, but I do play one on TV. So, not really. But, my husband's always saying, you should go back to school and become a therapist. And I'm like, you know what? I don't want to do that. I don't want to sit in an office and have somebody pay me to do this. I feel like I'm called into these scenarios where it might not be about graphic design. It might not be about painting. It might not be about whatever the task or job or whatever it is that I'm there for. It ends up being about something bigger and greater than myself and my talents. And I think that's pretty freaking amazing. And once she said that and I made that list and figured it out, that this is a pattern that no lie, every person that I'm in business with or do work for or even volunteer with, that I'm able to help people and serve them and do things in a way that wasn't anticipated. And it's comical now because, it just keeps repeating itself. So it makes me think, is this my purpose? Am I called to do this? Am I good at so many things, but not great at one specific thing because this is the plan? To be centered and lined up with certain people that are in certain parts of their life where I can help them or give them a new, fresh perspective, but we were brought together because of the design or the graphics or the whatever. Like, that was almost the vessel that got us together. And it's super cool when I sit back and think about that. And every time I tell this story to somebody always seems to get an idea about their own life. Somebody always has something to say or can relate, or all of a sudden it's like a light bulb moment in their life, like, oh my gosh, I totally get that, and I can see that in my own life working its way in its own way, and it's kind of cool. But if you break it down, first of all, for the first time, I'm leading a small group in my church, and I'm doing it based on a podcast called Born to Impact with Joel Marion and Dan Long. And I love this podcast so much. And I'm not even talking about it because they're telling me to or they want me to, even though they do suggest that, like to share it with everybody. I share it because I genuinely am impacted by it. And I started a small group around this podcast because that's how much impact it has on me. There's that sun again, trying to ruin my video. And I share it with everybody, and then I decided to have a small group of ladies, and we get together and we talk about these different topics. And it's about all of these things. And we just got done talking about purpose and calling. And it leads to amazing discussion, because I think that's a question everybody has, is what is my purpose or my calling? And if calling is, where God wants you to go, as like a destination, and then what you learn from it or who you become in that moment is your purpose, that's pretty cool to think about it like that. And because I think a lot of times we get confused about purpose and calling. We want it to be a specific thing, or we think, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do, and so we go do that thing, and then it ends up not being, it's not fulfilling, or it doesn't make you happy or whatever. And I think a lot of it goes back to, as they talk about in the podcast, the 5 pillars of impact, one of them being passion. they should add perspective as one of the P's, by the way, because I think you need to have a little bit of perspective when you're trying to have most impact. Because if your perspective is off, then it throws everything off. Because perspective is almost like attitude. It can be associated with that very easily. Because I can view something in a negative way, or I can view something in a positive way. And that to me is perspective. So I'm a super positive person. At least I like to think it be. Even in the most crazy situations, I'm always the one that's like, but at least it wasn't that. Or here's the blessing in this, or whatever the scenario is. But nonetheless, this podcast is amazing, and this small group is amazing. And we are learning so much about ourselves and purpose and calling, and I think just sharing our own stories with each other, it is what enlightens other people and helps other people, because it shines a new perspective. And if you can't share, I should have turned there. I hate it when I miss my turn because I'm talking on video. That's why I shouldn't do this in the Jeep. But if we can get to a point where we can be open and transparent and real with people, and we can share ourselves and share the information that we have or the stories that we have, it can be totally life-giving. And I'm all about that right now, because it's empowering when I can just share who I am and be transparent, and somebody gets something from that. Like, what is that? And I really think that's part of my calling. I really think that's part of my purpose. So, I can do all these things. I can be creative. I can have an artistic eye. I can match color. I can paint. I can do graphics. I can build websites. I can do photography. Anything creative. But what's the point to all that? That was always my question. And it's not in the doing, let me rephrase that. It is in the doing of these things that I am becoming who I'm supposed to be. I am becoming God's purpose for me. That I have learned a few years ago, but I did not know what it was until I started listening to this podcast. So, welcome to my YouTube channel, because it's only going to get better. Especially once I learn how to do video better than in my phone, in my Jeep. But that's just my authentic self, because like I said in the first video, this is literally where I think about all the things. So video in the moment, right? Because that's when you're going to get my passion. That's when you're going to get all the excitement of what I got to say. So stick around. It's going to be a bumpy ride. Literally. It's because I'm in the Jeep, because it's bumpy. Jeep, and it's not like a Cadillac or a nice car or whatever, that Mercedes that rides nice. So it's gonna be a bumpy ride, but it's gonna be awesome, because we're gonna talk about some stuff that's real, and we're gonna talk about some stuff that I'm excited to talk about. I'm gonna talk about some things that I have literally been able to help people through. And if you get something out of this, that's my only goal. I just want to do what Dan and Joel do on their show, is impact people. I just want to do that. So help me do that. So share this, like this, which freaks me out, by the way. This is the first time I'm telling you to share it, like it, subscribe. I guess that's the word we ought to say. I have to get in the habit of that. But this is now my YouTube channel, Third Mountain. Go back and watch the story about that. Until then, take care. Talk to you soon. See you in a week. Bye.